Defensive coordinator Jordan Lesley. Questions for Coach Lesley, Greg?
So Jordan, defensive improvements, I guess they've been slowly coming, but certainly sped up this past week and saw a lot better. Have you seen that? That's on the brink, and was it better? And if so, why this past week?
Yeah, I think it was. It was better. Just execution was way better. Fundamentals, probably fundamentally the best game we've played, and they really, how they block their schemes, and obviously with who they have behind those guys can really get you in with some moving pieces, and they shifted and motion probably a little more than they have seemed like to me from the box, so they can get you. They can get your eyes crossed up, and I thought especially in our front seven, they really kept their eyes where they needed to be. They kept their leverage. Y'all have heard Coach talk about. They really talk about two types of leverage on offense, which is hand leverage, pad leverage. We talk about a third on defense, which is gap leverage, and which is what you see a lot of mistakes sometimes, and a lot of those moving pieces get you crossed up. I thought that was the best we'd played, and then our distribution and our coverage. And our eye control was way better. So just simple things.
You got a 45-play game to grade. I'm sure you probably had half the play. You probably had it already done by the time you were in the air. I mean, it's nice to be able to grade a game when you only got to defend 45 plays.
Well, with the iPad, you just grade it during the game. So you've already watched it.
So you're on Iowa State.
You've already watched it 2 or 3 times by the time you get to the end of the game, because you're just, when the offense out there, you're just watching this. That's what I feel like. I feel like why do I need to grade it on the plane? I've already graded it twice during the game. So no, it does. It makes it easy when you play a game like that. Those are good ones to coach in. Credit to our offense for able to do that and give us that opportunity, but when we needed to get off the field, we got off the field too. So it was good.
Has going up into the booth given you a different look on things as far as what you're seeing and how you Coach Brown talked about being removed from the emotion of the side?
Yeah, and that's probably the most important thing. I don't think it gives you a different look. I just think it changes how, what the look is and how you approach each play, and you're able, obviously you see more. Not only actually seeing it, you just kind of see the big picture of things, and you're able to, to probably get your kids in some better positions than you normally would. Just kind of slows down the emotions. Really, it's not necessarily emotion. It's just, there's a lot of things that go on on the sideline. There's a lot of moving pieces, and there's a lot of things where you're 2 and 3 plays ahead, whether that's, defense to special teams, offense to special teams, and there's a lot of moving pieces. And so it just kind of calms things down. I don't say emotional, it just kind of calms it down a little bit.
Whether you like it or not, with a 2-0 record up there, you ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, I actually had somebody that was a fan there at the game, and as we were walking down after the game, he was, hey, stay in the box. Plan to.
It's more clinical, right? I mean, you're down there, you see, you don't have the eye contact with the players, obviously. Mm. You're making the calls, but you don't get to see their eyes. Is that?
Yeah, honestly, going back, the only reason that I stayed down starting the year was trying to get a feel for the changes that we have in college football with the green dot and the iPad. And so there was, going into it, there was more of a trying to get a bead on operational things, which, quite honestly, what made the ultimate decision for me was there really wasn't a big difference in what it was last year. I really thought about going to the box last year, but now that I'm there, I'll never go back.
Just to clarify, was it a decision that did you bring up to Coach Brown that, hey, I'd like to go up in the box now, or did he?
Yeah, that's something that I wanted. Like I said, I actually thought about it at times last year. And then again, with the changes, it was really going into a lot of unknowns with how that was going to work. And probably one of the things that I probably underestimated, particularly home games, is the crowd noise through the mic as you go, and it didn't really have an effect, but it is, you know, it's just another thing that's can be a distraction, and it wasn't, but I just, you know, I thought, well, hey, you know, if we can eliminate that, that can be one more thing that helps. But it was a thing that I wanted to do, and I brought up, thought it would help everybody as, you know, as we get into conference play.
So are there things you miss, though, by not being down the field, seeing kids in the aisle, talking to them? Are there things you think that are a negative of it? Maybe not negatives.
No, yeah, no, I know what you're asking. No, not really. I mean, yeah, there's I love the emotion of a sideline, like the when you start getting into a rhythm and you're getting stops and you're getting third down stops and you're excited with the players, and that's just fun, I think, for any coach. But I think the big picture of things is way more important, and staying, you know, on the sideline, I think you always try to be a couple of plays ahead how you think. And I think in the top, I'm a couple drives ahead. I'm into a little more situational things, and, you know, kind of looking through the depth of whatever we're doing and getting things kind of lined up and in your head, and which is much easier without, you know, a lot of moving pieces. I mean, our sideline is fine. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to Oklahoma State, but there's, you know, not a lot of room. So I'm glad that was, and it was really hot. It wasn't so much in the press box.
Jaheim had mentioned that they had like a players-only meeting after the Pitt game and kind of trying to hold each other accountable, say, hey, we're not playing the standards we're trying to hold ourselves to. Could you sense a difference in the way they carried themselves after that? And I mean, obviously, you know, they've been playing very well since then. I mean, or better since then. Could you tell a difference after they?
Yeah, I think it. And I obviously wasn't down, but I think the big difference was probably after Kansas scored on the last reverse. And I very simply, I called down, and we were talking about, you know, and on the sideline, I called down, and I was like, you know, how are they? And the guys were like, hey man, they're not blinking, they're not missing a beat. So we were already into, okay, when we get a stop, this is what we're going to do, this is what we think they're going to do, this is how we're going to get it done. And that's probably the last 5 minutes of that game. Just the opposite of what happened the week before. We're on the other end of it, and that was probably the biggest change to me. And you know, whatever was done or said in that meeting, that's between them. They're all, you know, they're great kids. Nobody was more upset and embarrassed at that point than they were. And kudos to them for coming in and handling it, and that's what they should do. And because when they get out there, they don't have me or Jeff or Shadon or AJ or Vic, or they're the ones that are out there. And so, you know, continuous improvement and growth in that, and hopefully it stays that way.
I was going to ask, how nice is it when that group of players takes that personal responsibility, and it's not something you have to come in and beat into them.
Correct.
Or drive into them. They're doing it themselves.
Yeah, and you know, we talk about it in all off season, and you trying to get the point. You have a chance when you're player led. When you're coach led, not that you can't do it. It's a lot harder. And I think that's something that's even harder with the environment that we're in, because, you know, I've heard me say this, like when you have guys, particularly transfers, and they are experienced and they played a lot of football, but they haven't played a lot of football together. And that means a lot, and I think the more they do that, then the better that they get, and they start to kind of play off each other and feed off each other and figure out, you know, leadership styles, and you just, you know, you're just trying to get better every week. And I think nobody wants to more than them. And I think they took it, and they've taken it on their own. I think it's definitely helped.
Speaking of a player that transferred, that played a lot of football but not necessarily here, Jaheim Joseph obviously had a big game. He even talked about how he feels more comfortable now as a vocal guy than maybe he was previously used to. What have you seen from him in that maturation process from spring to now?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it's, you know, I think you come in a lot of times and people get experience confused for experience when it's when you've been in the same place for a long time. And I think that just takes playing the game. You can practice and scrimmage all you want to, but it's hard to mimic situations that we've been in a scrimmage or in a practice or in an OTA or in a workout or in a film room. It's just hard to, you're never going to be able to do that. And the only way that happens is playing together. And I think that's the more comfortable, the more they do that, obviously, the more comfortable they are, whether that's with the communication piece or just lining up and playing the defense. And so I think that's really, really helped Jaheim. And Jaheim's an extremely smart kid. And so the more that, I mean, you got to think from their standpoint, right? They've been in one system for that amount of time in a totally different league, seeing a totally different styles of offense. And then now, all of a sudden, here we are, it's something different, even though you played a lot of ball. And the more they play, the better that they are. And I think that's where we're at with Jaheim, and it definitely showed Saturday.
Iowa State points of emphasis. I mean, they got 3 ball carriers averaging, I guess, more than 5 yards a carry. A big wide receiver. They got 2 guys getting primarily all their passes. And, of course, Beck, where do you start with them when you have to think about emphasis of stopping them?
Well, the first thing is alignment. They make you, they stress you with different formations and shifts and motions, and they always have. They've had a couple different guys in their system, but the systems have pretty much stayed pretty close to the same. They use the tight end as well as anybody in the country, and they really put some pressure on you with all those moving pieces. And not that the play sets are much different from what you see, throughout the league, but how they present it, and it's always a challenge. Use their tight ends well. Use all of that to help the quarterback, and the quarterback obviously has to execute and be smart and know where to go with it, and which Beck does. So this will be a huge challenge.
What do you think, from your perspective, is what's making Beck so effective under center?
He's really smart. Just knows where to go with it. I'm not going to say sneaky athletic, because it's not very sneaky. I mean, he's fast, can run, he's athletic, but does a good job extending plays. And I think it's most quarterbacks in our league are good at that and have been for a long time. But he fits into that offense extremely well. And then, like I said, I think the smart piece is knowing where and when, particularly. Any team you get to this point in the season that has very, very low sack numbers, not only is it a credit to the front, but it's a lot of times a credit to the quarterback and knowing when and where to go with the ball.
Jackson, shifty guy. You see any Jaheim White in him?
Oh, very similar. Yeah. Jaheim White, very similar to the kid at Pitt. Shifty, can get lost in there and pop right out. Can make one cut moves, get vertical, make another cut and get sideways. That's is always a challenge tackling guys like that.
Jordan, some of the stuff you're talking about with Jaheim and just transfers in general, is KK. Is that kind of like an example of that, a little bit different, but just find a position for him that actually fits his ability? Maybe it's spear, maybe it's corner, maybe it's safety, I don't know, but it does take a period of time to settle something like that in.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and not that every coverage is different, how it taught from school to school, or whatever it may be, is a lot of times different. I think for him, and for Saturday, he played a lot of corner at Jacksonville State, and I think down underneath coverage allows him to use some of those same skills, playing spear, nickel, whatever you want to call it. Kind of a lot of the same skill sets to show up right there underneath. You may not be playing man, you may be playing zone, but it helps him. We kind of saw during the off week that is something that could help us. And Aubrey got a little banged up, and we really didn't miss a beat with him. So it was a great job by him.
And then what you're coaching or how you're coaching in the secondary? I understand just the familiarity and just reps, right? That gets better. But have you taught things differently, coaching things differently that's kept guys around the ball where they're knocking them down, they're just there to make tackles now as opposed to having to run up? It seems like just generally, I don't know, just like more near the ball, more active around it too.
Yeah, again, I think it has a lot to do with, you go into a season and you can practice and OTA and scrimmage a lot, but a lot of times you don't know what it is to the game. And I think you go into it always thinking there's certain things that you can do, and there's certain things that you may be better at, and all of a sudden it may not be the case, and you can sit there and complain about it, or you can adjust it and continue to get better and improve, and then maybe find some different spots, some different not necessarily coverages, but how you're running them, maybe adjust to your personnel. You got to do what they can do. So I think all of that, a combination of all of that has definitely helped. And then there's, the more they play, the better they are. And so that's kind of, not that it's any secret sauce or formula, but it's just reps and getting better and continue to improve and just work. And I think that's kind of been where we're at.
Following up on your thoughts about players needing to see things on the field, no matter how many times you see it in other areas, you see a lot of, two backs or one back, one tight, whatever, but you don't see a whole lot of the two tight ends to the degree Iowa State does, and even three at times. So is that the challenge, the differentiator this week in getting ready for them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, our offense uses, the tight ends in different ways. And, we see 2 and 3 of them. But, I mean, everybody that uses those systems, the presentation's always a little bit different with how they use them. And so you just, you get in a film room, try to get a beat on it. And but it's unique. They've done it for a while now, and there's always wrinkles and things that you're going to see. They're week to week, year to year with them, but they're still a redundant theme of using the tight ends a lot, and so probably more than any other team we face. So it's a huge challenge.
Okay, thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you.